This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
All right, do you want to dig into this? Because we're now over an hour after our start time.
All right. Yeah, so all that to say, I have no life updates. I just have bitching about mics, or about podcast production.
But let's be honest. We cannot end the plot line about Perrin rescuing Faile without delaying for at least an hour before we start it. This chapter needs to be put off. It has to be.
It does. It truly does.
It's its fate.
My God, it does.
It's its fate. For 4 books, we've been waiting for this chapter. And finally, we reunite Perrin and Faile.
God, the most anticipated reunion in the entire books, I swear.
Maybe.
Okay. One of the most anticipated reunions.
In the same way that Infamous and Famous are related, I feel like anticipated and like inanticipated need to be related, right? This is the most inanticipated chapter.
Is inanticipated even a word?
It is now. I just invented that,
right.
okay?
That's reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
Canon accepted.
It's the one that, like, nobody really wanted to see, but, like, there's been so much build up to it, and it's, like, the most well-known, famous one that, like, everyone talks about happening. We just didn't really care.
We were told to care aggressively. We refused, but we still were told. Some of us cared. But yes, we are finally here at chapter 30, outside the gates. And our symbol is the Aiel spear and buckler, because we're going to kill us some creepy, rapey, abusey, assaulty weirdos who are Aiel. We're going to kill them.
I like his little, they pinch butts, so they should be killed part of this chapter. It's like, wait a minute, that's not... But it is
a disproportionate response to smash a man's head in. It is slightly disproportionate.
But that's not why he smashed. Yes. Given everything else, there's a good reason for it. But yeah, it does feel a little bit like, oh wow, that was okay.
Like, just in case, like he thought we were gonna let them get redeemed. Like, no, we weren't. No, we weren't. Like, Perrin literally killed the man who kidnapped his wife. He didn't explicitly know that, but he killed Roland in the spirit of the thing that Roland literally did. So, like, we all felt fine about it. We didn't need the butt pinching to make us want him dead. Like, that seemed like an unnecessary flourish at the end. But whatever. Should I read us in?
Please read us in to outside the gates.
Yes, outside the gates. Yes. Okay, that makes so much sense. Yes. Faile tried to estimate the time by the slant of light falling through gaps in the ruined building overhead. It seemed still short of noon. All that had been cleared was a small space at the very top of the basement stairs. Any of them could have passed through it if they dared to try climbing the slanted pile of blackened rubble, but that still looked as though it might fall in any moment. The tangled heap still creaked alarmingly at times. The only good thing was that it had not started raining on their heads. How long that would last was a question. She had been hearing thunder for some time, quite a lot of it, and slowly coming closer. The booms were almost continuous. A storm that fierce might be enough to make the building finish collapsing. Light. She was thirsty. Mood, Faile. I too am thirsty. That's all I'm going to read. That was somehow the most mentally demanding thing I've ever done.
Some of those sentences are a little awkwardly formed. I can see that. So yeah, you 3 brotherless, but like, I don't really understand why that's too many. I guess because they can't get away. That's enough to like turn them over.
Yeah, exactly. It's 3 brotherless is enough to kill, incapacitate, whatever. All of the guy shine is the assumption, because Faile doesn't know there's a battle happening. She doesn't know that the brotherless have decided today is the day and they're bouncing, and also
Perrin has decided today is the day.
Entire Perrin avalanche has exactly.
Right.
She has no idea any of that. She assumes that the brotherless are still like just Shido light, but they're not anymore.
And she's like, man, that thunder, there must be a storm coming. It's going to start pouring any minute now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And she's thinking that for like hours. And
right.
It's like, at some point you have to realize that any minute now has not occurred. It just isn't. It's not going to happen.
I also wonder about the frequency. Do you not understand that, like, anyone who's been involved in a thunderstorm versus a one-power battle, I feel like there would be a difference in frequency in strikes.
Yeah.
And, like, a very obvious pattern, and one would sound like a battle and one would sound like nature.
Yeah, presumably it's just the noise and the tension of her situation, just sort of blanking out, paying attention to that.
Yeah.
Because she is in a very dire situation, listening to, like, people talking and the sound of them moving rubble and
right.
all of that. So, like, it's just kind of all background to her. She's like, yeah, thunder, I guess, whatever. And that's, like, it for her attention. And she does, as soon as she gets out, she does go, like, wait a second, this isn't thunder. Like, she does think that as soon as she's out of the building.
Sure. It's being underground and, like, not having any visibility into what's going on. Yeah.
But it still feels weird. I agree. It still feels like, surely after hours, you would have noticed that the rhythm is wrong.
I'm kind of assuming that the thunder didn't go on for hours, that the thunder kind of appears right as if they're about to get out.
Yeah, time is very slow and blurry during his battle sequences. Those in RJ Classic, is he does not let you know how much time is passing.
The booms. She had been hearing thunder for some time, quite a lot of it, and slowly coming closer. Yeah, sometime.
Right, she's trying to estimate the passage of time, but, like, it's not working, so, like, RJ's telling us don't even bother, I guess.
Yeah, it's just, it's less than a day.
Yes, it's enough time that the Brotherless have worked on. Roland has let them try to dig themselves out, and he's tried to dig out from the top, and then they have decided, oh, the battle is moving closer to us. This isn't working. And that's when Roland leans out and says, nah, we're going to do a human rope thing. We're going to have Kinwin, like, hold my ankles, and you're going to climb up over me because we don't have time. And he doesn't say we don't have time because of the storm, but what he's saying is, like, we don't have time because I can hear the battle coming closer. So however long it takes battle to move, right? Like, whatever the speed of battle is.
Not constant.
Not constant, right? But, like, it's not minutes, right? Like, it could be, like, an hour. Like, it takes a while for a battle to, like, begin in one area and then move to another area. Like, this is a foot battle, right? This is not like a car battle or whatever. It's going to go reasonably slow. And these guys are going to be looking at it and going, yeah, we got to change the strategy we've been doing for, like, 20 minutes or whatever, right? Like, it's taking them minutes to an hour, I would think. But I can't be 3 hours. I mean, the battle is supposed to be over by noon. Battle is exhausting. This is a mid-battle decision, so it can't be more than 2 hours, right?
Well, and also, at the end of this chapter, he says they will be here in about 2 hours. So that means, and if they're going to be there at noon, that means that's still 10 o'clock when Perrin rescues her.
Yeah.
Right? So that's still 10 a.m., which is still pretty early in the morning. And I know they went out at, like, dawn, but even assuming this is, like, what time of year is it?
I think we're a little bit past Beltane, so we're past spring equinox.
Mm-hmm.
So
dawn's gotta be like
dawn's
6,
be,
7
6.
at the earliest, right? So yeah, 3 hours. Yeah,
I'd say dawn was probably 6 for them.
So we're talking 4 hours since they got up and went out there.
Yeah. So I mean, this entire process of them trying to dig out with the Brotherless overseeing it can't be more than an hour and a half.
And don't forget, they were down there for a while with Magden trying to wave the flag, too.
Right. Yeah, again. So, this is 40 minutes, maybe, that they spend with Roland being like, yeah, sure, we can dig you out. Actually, no, never mind. And then he, has them human chain their way up, and he pinches all the women, which is annoying. But we have the beginning of the pattern where Faile we have the continuation of the pattern where Faile is prioritizing others.
Well, and it's everybody does it, right? Because they are this nobility of the queens of like, no, I will be the last one out. And Roland's like, I'm not getting anybody out unless you come first. Right, so she's like, fine. And then she's like, I'll be the last one healed. And the healer ends up ignoring her. That's that's later. But
it's a funny iteration of that pattern.
Right. It's sort of in the same vein of, I wish Perrin was here. He knows what to do with women. Right? Like.
Right. I must go to the back of the line. I am the least worthy. I wish I was as brave as the others.
Yes, that's the other one I was going to go, is Nynaeve saying, I wish I was as brave as Elaine, and then charging face first into a battle with the Forsaken. Be like, yeah, not brave. Not brave. Definitely not brave.
Yeah, Perrin and Faile's people, their deal is, no, don't treat my wounds until everyone else has been healed. It doesn't matter that I literally have a gut wound or like I'm bleeding out from an artery.
And they have a bruised arm, right? Like
yeah. That is the Bashir Ebara cultural trait that they're going to pass on to their entire new nation. Is like, no, don't treat me.
I mean, it's Two Rivers too, as well.
To a certain extent, yeah, that is basically the Two Rivers. But Faile didn't learn it from the Two Rivers. Faile definitely had that from her Borderlander origins.
Well, and that's something that we see a lot with Lan and Rand, is that they share a lot of these, like the sympathy for women, the hard work, the sacrifice, this like I would almost say this puritanical view of life that is shared with the Borderlanders and the Two Rivers.
Stoic to the point of insanity.
Yeah.
That
Manetheren seemed to have the same values of the Borderlanders because they were in this constant battle with the Dark One, right? And then those values seem to have passed on and down to the people of the Two Rivers. And somehow that DNA is shared with the Borderlanders.
Shades of Protestantism. Yes, Lillian. But yeah, no, I think you're right. There's a implied Jordanism that fighting against the shadow will have you in this sort of, like Protestant work ethic kind of space, which is like pretty toxic in some iterations, but also creates some fun, noble tropes that will transcend their other cultural trappings and create that synergy.
You have to look at Andor. You have to look at these. I mean, these are England Camelot analogies, right? Like, so you're going to have a world that is, of course, based in that sort of mythology, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. A world in which the Protestant work ethic is not seen as a bad thing is going to center it as a good thing. And like, okay, sure. For the sake of argument, we'll allow it.
No, the Protestant work ethic has totally made my life better and hasn't harmed me in any way, shape, or form.
Anyway, to the book.
To the book!
Run away!
Laugh
Look at
of
the
pain.
fangs on him.
So she gets out and gets a big gulp of forkroot tea.
Which doesn't affect her because she has no channeling ability whatsoever.
It does affect her, though.
What?
There is a moment later on. Here we go. Magnan passes out, right?
Uh-huh.
Because she, of course, drinks forkroot tea and does have the ability. And Faile says, she must be very tired. Faile said, smoothing her maid's hair and trying not to think of how they're blah, 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 blah.
Oh.
It would be light. She felt a touch wobbly herself.
Yeah.
Because she drank forkroot tea, and people who don't have channeling abilities still feel a little bit wobbly and a little bit off when they drink forkroot tea. It gives them a slight...
And then literally a paragraph later, she almost collapsed beside Magnan with relief. Like, yes, mostly relief, but... Oh, that fits
she could not
in,
afford
that, like,
weakness, not now. She's feeling this
weakness.
Wobbly.
Just a skosh wobbly.
Just a skosh wobbly, which is what forkroot tea does to you. I was so focused
on being excited to be like, Magnan passed out.
Right.
I saw it this time. Woo!
Right? Because we both missed it.
I missed that Faile experienced it too because, she drinks like a whole water skin of the stuff. She's gonna feel it she feels it at 1/5 the strength. Right? We've been told it's roughly like a 1-to-5 ratio. That makes so much sense. Good catch.
Thank you. Yeah, and again, thanks to Encyclopedia Watt for having this in their notes and being like, oh yeah, she passed out because of the forkroot, and me going, forehead palm, immediately slap my forehead. Oh my god, you dumbass! Why didn't you think of that earlier?
By the power of our nerddoms combined,
we can almost keep up with Robert Jordan. Man,
almost. I mean, he needed Maria to keep him on track.
That's true.
Maria is the actual MVP.
Let's not forget that behind the man writing this book were at least 2 women doing the majority of the work.
Quite literally.
When he says we need men and women working together for balance to create great things, he's not fucking kidding.
He knows what he's talking about. So Faile manages to drink some water and thus gain enough awareness and functionality in her brain again to put together what is happening and realize that there is a massive battle. And is it Perrin? Is it Aiel? Like, she's running through all these options trying to figure out what could possibly be happening, but she finally knows there's a battle either way.
Yeah. And I like that one of her options is, it's unlikely this, it's unlikely that, and it's just as unlikely as, and then she names the real thing, which is Perrin getting together a bunch of channelers to fight, and also somehow preventing the wise ones from fighting back. How is possible? Like, she's like, it must be a civil war. I don't understand, like, what's going on. And then, yeah, of course.
The only explanation is that Perrin's done a whole bunch of really improbable things that he absolutely cannot do, according to my knowledge.
Right.
Yeah, well, you're in a novel, girly.
So yeah, Magdan, does the same thing. Magdan washed out her mouth hurriedly before beginning to gulp thirstily. So yeah, of course, she, being the only channeler of the group, is the one who collapses right away. I'm sure being tired doesn't contributes, right? I'm sure the exhaustion.
She was the only one channeling the whole time. And channeling is an exhausting activity, particularly when you're learning and pushing and stretching. I'm sure her channeling ability got bigger because of the effort she put in. Like, she
maybe
would be tired at a much deeper level than the rest. But yeah, the tea has to have made such a big difference in the rate at which she passed out.
Yeah, she collapses, literally. Yeah. But yeah, and then in the next paragraph, we get the little bits about Faile feeling a bit wobbly and almost collapsing beside Moghedien with relief, she says, aka being drugged a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the lack of tension plus a sedative flooding your system, that's going to be a constructive wave to want to punch you down and to, like, bring that woman a pillow and, like, let her put her feet up, because she is needing a nap.
So at this point, the Brotherless basically say, we're getting you out.
Yeah, they say shit is moving fast. Our first priority is to stash you somewhere safe outside of everyone's sphere of influence.
And then we'll come back and get you and take you out of here, give you whatever supplies you need, like... And that is kind of a little bit depressing about how they get killed, is like, if they had just stopped and talked for a second, they could have said, we all have the same goal here, which is getting these women out of camp.
But also, Roland literally is the one who captured Faile.
Absolutely, right? Like, and he was kind of demanding sexual favors for getting them out, right? Like,
yeah, and he was, like, literally sexually harassing the other women just to try to provoke Faile because he was playing weird mind games with her to, coerce sexual favors out of her. Like, it's all very icky, and it's very depressing that they were kind of doing a good thing at the end where, for the sake of getting the prisoners out, cooperation with Perrin for a brief period totally makes the most sense.
Right.
But then you have to kill an enemy because he's a douchebag, or then you have to kill an ally, a brief temporary ally, because it turns out he's your longer term enemy and a total douche. Like,
well, I mean, this goes back to my theory where I would have loved to see Perrin take in more of his enemies. I would have loved to see him take in the Brotherless and have them fight for Perrin, and that's how they could fight for the Dragon Reborn without fighting for Rand. Right? I think we talked about this theory in the past, right?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, then, you could have a whole moment where Perrin has to, like, kind of pseudo-forgive Roland because Roland's like, I am now your spear, and you can literally kill me, and I won't even bother to, like, resist because, like, perpetual guy shine, but I'm willing to go do violence against the bad guy, blah, blah, blah. Like, we spend this whole thing out with, like, Aram helping retrieve Massima's people and Perrin just collecting the Meriden. But to have Roland specifically bring the Meriden to Perrin and have Perrin have to wrestle with the fact that this is specifically the man who kidnapped his wife. But also, that same man is saying, my life is yours, you can do with it what you want, because that is how I learned the error of my ways. We get a massive double forgiveness arc with Perrin that would be very interesting to explore. But no, instead we get brains on his hammer. Alas.
And, well, I think it would be fun to explore the cutting off of the hands with Roland.
Oh, ooh.
And have him be the victim in that case.
Ooh. Like, I will have to take one of your hands as restitution, just in general, just because that's what I do to Aiel that piss me off now, is I take away a hand.
But we're past that, right? He's thrown away the axe already.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't want to do that with a hammer.
No. Oof. Crush a hand with a hammer.
No,
Yeah, no.
We don't need that.
No. So yeah, Faile's got her blade stashed away that she's going to use on Roland later.
Yeah, anyone, right? Like,
Yeah,
she still
right.
has the knife, and she's like, I don't know who's going to be regaining control of me as this day goes on, but I have a knife, and I will fucking use it. And yeah, that's how we end the POV, is with her being like, even though the man has my arm in his fist, I have a knife in the other hand. And we see her use that knife to kill Kinwin in the next
That's right, not
POV.
Roland.
Roland gets killed by Perrin as Kinwin rushes past Faile to attack Perrin in Roland's wake. Faile negates the issue with that knife.
Perrin ran along the winding street through the tents. No one moved in his sight. But through the roar of exploding fireballs and lightnings, he could hear other sounds of battle. Steel clashed on steel, men shouting as they killed or died. Men screaming. Blood ran down the left side of his face from a gash in his scalp, and he could feel it oozing down his right side from where a spear had grazed him, oozing down his left thigh from a spear that had bitten deeper. Not all of the blood was his own. A face appeared at the opening to a low, dark tent and drew back hurriedly. A child's face, and frightened. Not the first he had seen. The Shido were being pressed so hard that a good many children had been left behind. They would be a problem for later, though. Over the tents he could see the gates little more than 100 paces ahead. Beyond them lay the fortress and Faile. So yeah, he's basically in battle, getting attacking people. He's got a couple of cuts, gashes. Reading the story the first time, and I didn't realize how often Perrin takes really bad wounds. Because he doesn't really acknowledge them, and he usually takes on healing. Like, Matt complains about his wounds, and he doesn't get healed. So, like, he kind of limps from them for a long time. Like, his hip's broken for a long time, right? I think of Matt as someone who gets wounded. I think of Rand as someone who gets wounded a lot, because he's always got that wound in his side, and he's constantly getting healing because of that, plus whatever other wounds he gets. Perrin, I just forget, like, he gets that arrow in him for a long time. All of his battles, he's cut up really badly. And he just goes, but he always has either an Aes Sedai with him, right? Like Varen or Alana, right? For a while in those early books.
Yeah.
And now he's got a couple of these,
I'm trying to remember their names.
Sayanid, right? And,
Masuri and Sayanid.
Where did they come from? Why are they with him?
White Tower Embassy at some point. One of the White Tower embassies that got broken up and reformed into attaches to the Tavirans.
And he's got the Ashaman with him as well.
And the Ashaman, no healing also.
Yes.
But yeah, Perrin has no issues or unhealable wounds. He just gets normal straight ahead wounds, and he has a reasonable person's approach to magic healing, which is yes, please.
Right, yeah. Oh, wait, you can heal me? Especially when they get the healing that, like, doesn't knock him out for a couple of days. Right, when they use, like, Nynaeve's version of healing, where they can, like...
I don't think that ever makes its way to Perrin's camp. I think they're stuck with the old healing the whole time.
The men always heal with the new healing.
Oh, that's true. That's true. They just never learned the battlefield stuff. They only, for whatever reason, because they were learning from Taim.
Who was taught by a Forsaken.
Forsaken.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would explain why they got the correct form of healing from the jump.
He's clearly not Demandred, because Vannon is Demandred, and there's no way that Demandred can be in both places at the same time.
That's okay. All right, internal consistency is required. I get it.
I'm more and more convinced the more I think of that theory, the more I'm just like, nope, Jordan was writing. Absolutely. Like, it's the play. It's where there should be Forsaken there. That should be the spot where there's a Forsaken.
Yeah. It's as so often true. It is Jordan who is wrong.
Yes. Is it me? No. My headcanon is right. It is Jordan who is wrong.
Yep. Objectively and absolutely, no one can counterfactual us. We will be taking no questions at this time. Or anytime.
Speaking of Elaine and Avienda.
They are not in this chapter.
No, definitely not. So he runs into two Shido who are distracted by something on their left. He kills those two Shido, and then from the left comes Aram.
Bum, bum, bum.
we need to talk about Aram and Perrin.
R.I.P. to such a good potential. Completely wasted. He was so young.
And this is where I have to go, why? Why Perrin? Why Aram? Why that character? Why are they related? What was Jordan trying to do, and what was he trying to say with Aram? Because I think if there's any time to summarize it, it's, in memoriam.
So, yeah, to just recap the encounter, Aram attacks Perrin and says in a very dazed, knocked on the head, compulsed kind of way, "The prophet explained it to me. I have to kill you to save Faile." Perrin cannot bring himself to kill Aram properly, and so some other Aiel take advantage of the two wetlanders who are tangled up, shoot one wetlander, and attempt to shoot the other, and thus Perrin gets away because Ta'Veren. That's the bare bones of
the action scene.
Itself.
Yeah.
Aram dies to arrows in the back is how he actually dies. Perrin doesn't even have to deliver the final blow. He's about to get cut down. It's a whole mess. It's an absolute wet fart of an encounter. So,
and the end of it, Perrin goes, "Huh," and keeps going, right? It's a real, "Huh, that happened."
I
messed that one up. Yeah,
it really is, and he thinks about it later, and it's a whole thing. But in the moment, that's it. So yeah, I agree. In memoriam to what Aram should have been, let's talk about it.
I think what Jordan was trying to do is basically, okay, whenever I go, why is Jordan doing something? I remember he's either trying to do two things. Say, explain that myth fades to rumor, right? Which fades to legend, right? So either he's basing this off of a legend and this character is doing it because the legend does it, right? Or he's trying to demonstrate that balance is important.
Which is very thematically relevant with Perrin and violence in particular.
Yes. And so with Perrin, the hammer is the balance for him, right? The hammer is the thing that has multiple purposes. The axe is for killing only. We're ignoring the fact that you can use an axe to cut down a tree because it's a battle axe, not a tree axe.
Yeah. Pedantry aside.
Whatever. That aside, the axe is a weapon for killing. The hammer is not, right? The hammer can be used for killing, but can also be used for creation. Aram picks up a sword, which we know from the Way of the Leaf is a weapon only. It has no use other than killing, right? At the same time, Perrin took away everything Aram believes in. He has no family. He has no credo, right?
He has no kith or kin.
No, yeah, it's nothing. Nothing going on in his life other than the sword, which its only use is for murder.
Right. Swords only exist to exert martial control.
What does Perrin say? I'm a blacksmith, right? He has something else in his life. And what else? And he has Faile.
Right. Home is Faile.
Yeah, home is Faile. Faile grounds him. And so, there's this bit of warning, you see him going a little bit off the deep end, going into that violence without Faile, right? That's what the cutting off of the hand is. He's becoming Aram in that moment.
Right. The axe is too much when he doesn't have Faile to balance it out, which maybe means it's just too much in general. Because he can actually manage himself with only the hammer without Faile.
I think there's also another... there's this contrast between Matt and Perrin that really only makes sense if you look at Matt a little bit, where you look at Matt as the one who everyone calls irresponsible, yet is raising a child, brings an army, wins the battle, is incredibly reliable, does everything he says he's going to do. And then you've got Perrin, who everyone says is incredibly reliable, and yet he's barely leading his army. He's going off the rails to just rescue somebody. He refuses to take responsibility for anything, and Aram, his surrogate child, he totally abandons to death and corruption.
God damn. Yeah, Matt has to work for his army. Perrin has to be begged by his army to serve. Matt easily and naturally makes sure that Oliver is taken care of. Perrin makes sure that Aram spirals out into a cult follower. Matt instantly switches from philanderer to super loyal man the second that he gets legally married. Perrin lets himself get...
The second he meets the person he knows will be his wife.
Perrin does not know the beginning of how to handle a weird, salacious rumor and just sort of lets it spiral out of control, even though he is the most loyal man in the world. Like, he's so lost on how to deal with his own image. Wow. Matt gets so much shit for being irresponsible, and Perrin gets so much praise for being responsible, but it's like...
But Jordan loves proving his character's wrong, right?
Oh, wow. That's profound.
And just how much he's ignoring his responsibilities, right, to go after Faile, to go after what he wants. His responsibilities of taking care of Aram, taking care of the people who depend on him, taking care of the Two Rivers folks.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I mean, and in fairness, like, Matt does kind of have an army that follows him around and forces him into a position of leadership. That is actually kind of consistent between the two of them.
Yeah, but I was just reading that, and, like, he makes a deal with Telmanis. Telmanis talks him into it, but he shakes his hand and says, yes, I will be a leader, right? And from then on out, he complains about it, but he is the leader of the band from then on out.
Yeah. Well, there's also that part where they have to force him into, like, accepting that he's a prince and he needs a procession to go into the city. Yeah. But, yeah, it's... And they both do complain about all the people looking to them for leadership and how young they are. But Matt gets a lot more shit than Perrin does, even though they are very, very equal in their reluctance. And that is interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it really fails Aram on a really profound level, because everyone can see what's happening and everyone just kind of shrugs and lets it go. And I have a really hard time buying that Abel and Tam didn't, like, try.
Yeah.
Like, I have a really hard time just being like,
That
oh yeah,
they
they didn't see it or didn't care either. And I'm like, would Tam actually see an orphan tinker pick up the sword and not go, ooh, that seems like a problem? I feel like Tam, the best dad in the world, should have noticed and done something.
The only other thing I want to put out there, okay, is the sentence, his eyes looked almost glazed, like those of a corpse.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to bring all that up, because do we think that there's something extra going on with Aram? Or is it just what happens when a terrorist pulls the pin on the suicide vest?
It's tough to know, right? Because we're in this situation where we know for a fact that Massima is being influenced by Grendel posing as the dragon, right? In his dreams, she's fucking with his head. Aram, incredibly loyal, goes to visit Massima, comes back with a glazed look in his eyes, spouting this nonsense about Perrin being a dark friend that came from Massima, or that he thinks came from Massima. But if he's visiting Massima, Grendel pops in for a visit. She sees Aram there, knows that's Perrin's companion, throws a little, hey, guess what? He's actually a dark friend compulsion into his head. He comes back with this incredible, dead-eye focus on killing Perrin out of nowhere, because it's compulsion. I'm not saying I believe it. It's not even a theory. It's a theorem or a
hypothesis.
Hypothesis. It's a hypothesis, right? Like, I don't really have a lot of evidence for it, other than circumstantial evidence.
Yeah, he's clearly becoming a zealot and becoming infected with Massima's worldview. I think that's happening in an entirely organic human way.
Mm-hmm. But Massima's worldview is influenced by Grendel the Forsaken.
Very much so. And he kind of didn't like Perrin anyway. So, like, what he's preaching organically, repeatedly at Aram is these golden eyes mean that he's a dark friend, blah, 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 blah. Like, all of that feels to me very just... Massima could have come up with that in his own book canonical perfect context.
I mean, certainly the White Cloaks think that. But when have we ever thought of Massima thinking that?
What, that he's a dark friend?
With the yellow eyes? Is that something that was...
Yeah,
okay.
I thought that Massima was into that.
Because I definitely feel like the one we do know is the White Cloak who gets influenced.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that's also by Grendel.
And that's also by Grendel. So, yeah.
But, like...
Common theme here. Grendel, compulsion.
But I do like the idea that one time Grandal showed up and Aram was there, and she just put one of those really tiny little drops of compulsion that doesn't actually change your cognition at all. It just says, kind of like what Varen did, like, find a reason. When the time is right, find a reason. You're hanging around Masema. Your subconscious is seeded with plenty of reasons. You just have to find the right time. And the battle is clearly the right time.
It kind of reminds me of, like, Morghese not trusting the White Tower anymore. She's like, I just can't bring myself to trust them for some reason.
Forever,
right? And
perpetually,
forever.
without losing her intellect. Like, it's just like there's a gut feeling she can't shake.
And that's compulsion from Ravine.
Yeah, and then, maybe there's some sort of, like, Manchurian candidate kind of, like, when the time is right, like, this compulsion will kick in and you will, like, go in for the kill regardless of your own self-preservation, like some cordyceps shit,
Right.
I just, it's the way that Aram changes at the end is like, is that just suicide brain or is there something more? I want to believe that there's something more because Masema has been so integrally manipulated by Grandal. It's like, did he maybe have the ability to, like, do a feign style, like, compulsion on the people that he was really close to? Did Grandal, like, grant him some aura of compellability somehow? So she didn't even target Aram per se. She just targeted people that he was around. Like, I don't know, but I want to believe that Aram had something extra. But also, we've talked about over many, many chapters, like, he's been lost. He broke his own brain. This feels inevitable. Maybe this is just what happens when you cross that threshold.
Yeah, and compulsion by Grendel erases all of Perrin's responsibility in it in a way that I don't like.
Yeah, which, like, that's always the thing with compulsion is you do want to maintain the interesting characters with their full human flaws. And it's like Aram clearly broke his own brain by going to a zealot, and Perrin clearly let that happen despite it being obvious. And, like,
and all the lessons about violence and
like, and Masema was preaching that bad things needed to happen to people who didn't agree with him. Like, he was saying all that stuff. Aram's subconscious totally could have just hit that wall, had that dissociative break, had that, psychotic break probably, and, like,
and he loves Faile, not necessarily Perrin, right? He's changed his loyalty to Perrin and Faile to Faile, and I need to protect her from her husband.
Yeah, and I feel like many a good piece of psychological thriller art has been made out of that kind of motivation without magic needing to make it believable. So yeah, I do agree that I want to believe compulsion because I don't want to believe the depths of human depravity. And yeah. That might just be what it's like when you cross that threshold and decide that now is go time on your suicide mission. I would not know. I've never been on a suicide mission. I do not know that headspace, but.
And so the bit with Aram ends with Perrin thinking so many things he should have done. Too late now. Last time he thinks about Aram ever.
I'm pretty sure Faile brings him up one time after. I'm pretty sure, but
he really did just dismiss him with, there's a dead body, too late now. I guess he shouldn't have tried to kill me or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe don't suffer, like, profound life-altering trauma and then never get a good mentor to help you deal with that. Maybe just try doing better next time, you loser.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and thus he ended.
Get good.
Yeah. God. It's a bummer. Yeah, Perrin turns the corner and immediately gets distracted from his complete and utter failure as a father to Faile.
The most unlikely encounter of Faile, right? This has got to be Ta'veren twisting.
It's very coincidentally the reason that there's Ta'veren involved with the timing, but it also makes sense that Roland is taking them out of the gates because he says, I'm going to get you out of here physically and, like, stash you off site and then go finish the battle. So, like, it makes sense that he's heading for the same gates as Perrin, but it's Ta'veren that allows them to cross the gates at the same time.
Yes. And so we sort of see this from Perrin's POV. There's three guys. He thinks they're Shido because he doesn't know the difference between Shido and Meriden, including one that dwarfed Langwin, right? Big dude.
Yeah. Big dude. Brick shit house. Quarterback. Massive.
Yeah. But they seem to be an immediate threat. And so, of course, Roland starts attacking Perrin.
Absolutely. Super reasonable.
And Faile screams Perrin, and that distracts Roland just long enough for Perrin to crush his fucking skull.
Right, because as far as Roland is concerned, these are invaders, and they're going to kill any Aiel they see, and why would they treat the Gaishain any differently than Aiel, right? Like, in Roland's mind, he needs to protect Faile, and he has no idea who the fuck Perrin is until Faile identifies him, and then he goes, ah, shit, that's the man I'm trying to protect her for. Fuck. Like, this is the one person she needs me to not hurt.
Right. And I don't even think it's protect her for, because he wants Faile for himself. I think it's more like, if I kill him, she won't forgive me, right?
Well, like this man is part of what he's protecting when he protects Faile, right? He's trying to give her life back eventually, right? He's like, I want to get my favors from you.
See, I never saw that. I see her as him as wanting her to come run away with him and leave her old life behind.
So when he says that I'm going to send you back, you think that's just part of his mind games? Because he does explicitly say, I'm going to pester you until I send you back, but I am sending you back.
I think he's hoping that she's going to give it, right? Like,
he might have been.
Why is he pestering her for, right?
His lips are saying no, but his eyes are saying yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's enough of a creeper that I could imagine that being true.
I'm not going to force you to marry me. I'm going to put you in a situation where I can convince you to marry me.
Yeah, but regardless, he can't do that if he kills her husband. Like, all that goes out the window. Like, absolutely out the window.
Right. Of course, he can't do it if her husband kills him.
Yeah, and arguably if her husband's dead, she'll need a comfort fuck from somebody.
That's what I'm saying.
Probably not the man who killed her husband, but you never know. Women are strange. Yeah, a lot of thoughts go through his head very quickly, and then Perrin's
and then
hammer.
the hammer goes through his head. Yeah. That's a good one. That was a good. Yeah, nice.
It's all followed up with 10 pounds of steel.
Basically, when my coach said, "Don't stop before you touch the wall," that's pretty much what I'm going to tell Roland here. Is like, don't stop fighting until the battle's over, because you stopped and the other guy didn't, and that's why you died.
Yeah. And the effort of taking out Roland takes, Perrin out of the fight for that, round of battle. Kinwyn is coming up to attack him. Right. And Faile is like, "Wacha!" with her knife.
Yeah.
And
she just stabs him in the back, right?
Yeah, which is
literally,
rough, right? Literally takes an ally and stabs him in the back. And then Arla and Lucille together take out the other one, and Perrin very dismissively thinks, Arla is really upset because she had to kill someone and she didn't like it. No, that's someone she actually had feelings for.
Someone she was sleeping with, right?
Yeah. She had been sleeping with that person almost as soon as they showed up in the camp. Like, that was a very long-standing relationship throughout the entire imprisonment. There was no hard feelings between them. They were absolutely on good terms. And she didn't just stab an ally in the back. She stabbed, like, a lover who, like, she was coming to really have feelings for in the back. Like, that's bad.
And yet, still kidnappers. Right? Like, that's the whole thing, is like, the original sin of the kidnapping makes all of this completely justified. If they had let them go and then the women had come back to them, maybe. But they never got there. Yeah,
it's really complicated, but it all happened really fast, right? And that's part of where the emotional whiplash for Arla and Lucille is coming from, particularly Arla, and Perrin's just, like, so dismissive of her. Like, this Faile can't handle blood. And it's like, bitch, she just had to go through so many emotions and thoughts to pull that off. She has so much processing to do. Shut the fuck up. Like, so frustrating. Like,
but he's ignorant, right? He has no idea what they've gone through in the time. And he makes assumptions about what Faile's gone through, right? Like, the man was dead and a woman had the right to keep her secrets if she wanted, which we know that, like, she has some guilt because there was a moment when she believed she would sleep with him, right?
Yeah.
She never did, which, again, I think it would be more interesting if she did. I think it would be more interesting if she was forced to sleep with him and Perrin didn't sleep with Berylane. And that would, the reversal of the jealousy there, right? This whole jealousy thing between Faile and Berylane and Perrin, she wouldn't have no foot to stand on if she had slept with Roland while Perrin had maintained his celibacy out in the camp.
I don't know that I would have liked that better, but it would have been more drama.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, well, a lot of tea. Yeah, I mean, we like tea in this series.
We do.
As long as it's not forkroot.
Oh, it was Lucille, actually, who did the stabby stabs. Sorry, Lucille. I've confused you with Arilla. You're so similar.
Didn't they both stab, or was it?
Yeah, they both stabbed, but I was wrong about which one of them was having the relationship.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Because I was like, he's got 2 knife hilts out of his back.
Oh, yeah,
so unless one of them went, double stabby,
yeah.
I'm assuming each one of them had 1 knife.
But no, Lucille is the one who's suffering the worst emotional trauma from that. I got it backwards. Anyhow, Perrin gets to hug Faile. Everyone cheered. It's a great moment.
And then he says there'll be another 6,000 or 7,000 spears here in less than 2 hours, right? So that's, I'm assuming if they're going to be there at noon, we're at 10 o'clock now, after all of this drama, after all of this fighting, everything that's going on.
Yeah.
2 hours before noon.
That sounds right. And now that she's been reunited with Perrin, suddenly Faile is in charge of everything again and has her feet under her. And it's just like, all right, now I'm in charge. And she immediately takes it upon herself to say, oh, well, if the attack is happening, that means we now have 100,000 refugees we're going to need to manage and get home and et cetera, et cetera. Aravine, you start marshaling bannermen to make that happen.
And I want all of Savannah's money.
Yeah, every last scrap of gold that Parasite has hoarded is mine now, because we have literally 100,000 people to relocate. Which is a lot.
That's all the Guy Shine that we're taking, right?
That's way too many Guy Shine. I'm just going to say it. That is wealth hoarding.
Savannah, a billionaire.
Oh my God, seriously. Major billionaire energy.
So the only thing I want to say is that we've got these 2 clans coming in. They're the White Cliff clan and the Morai clan, Morai clan. No really mention of them in the rest of the books. I'm assuming they join Savannah and head back to the Aiel Waste. Thrava? Right, sorry. Savannah's taken, yeah. But yeah, I'm assuming they join Thrava and go back with her to the Waste.
That's my
assumption. But there's no other mention of them in the books other than these.
Yeah. They have to be part of the remnant of a remnant of a remnant that creeps back to the Waste with its tail between its legs to just go extinct.
Well, one would assume die out within a generation or 2.
Yeah, because I mean, they say at the end of this chapter, it's going to take us generations to rebuild. And Thrava says, fine, we'll take generations. I feel like we know that they will die out in just a few generations because it would take generations to build back up. So it's not going to happen.
It's also the prophecies, right? Way, way, way back in book 4 when it was basically you have to come to Ruidian and the wise one said, essentially follow Rand or you will be killed. Anyone who doesn't follow Rand will perish.
Right. First, it was anyone who doesn't follow this new ritual of going through the columns will perish. Then it's anyone who doesn't follow Rand will perish. Like there's iterations of this. And
there will only be a remnant of those who do follow Rand, but at least that's something.
Right. This is one of the other remnants, and they are going to just fade away like an ice cube on the sidewalk. Like they're done.
Because like they'll never be able to get anything back from, because like they'll never be able to go to Ruidian again because that's being occupied as a major city. They'll be outclassed by technology very quickly with guns and all that. They have no channelers left.
Yeah, well, they're going to have some channelers. There is mention of some women being slung over the backs of the warriors in Galina's perspective at the end. Thrava escapes. Thrava's a decent channeler. They do have some channelers, but like, yeah, they're super outclassed for the world that's coming. And Taviran fate, the pattern is not going to be kind.
No.
To them.
No.
They're going to have the worst time. The other Aiel are going to ostracize them. The Shan-Chan invasion is going to be very bad to whoever the Aiel don't like. Right? Like whatever iteration of the future events that happen, the Shido are going to be on the losing side.
Avienda's vision of the future isn't going to happen to anybody except the Shido.
Right. Something like that is going to be how the Shido get extinct. Something along those lines. It might not be the Raven Empire. It might not be after like a long drawn out, like deliberate genocide, but something like that is going to happen because they made their bed. Their die is cast, you know? All right. So doopy-doo. Perrin tells her about the whole fortress thing. She's like, what the fuck? They compare notes on Alice/Galina. They sort of work out, oh, she must be a dark friend, like, blah, blah, blah. They send someone off. They send Therill off to go get Aes Sedai and Warders and everybody from there. It's a whole, like, bring the party back together. And then we have a series of people heading off into the battle. Kirkland goes off after Missouri because she, I guess, didn't come with them. I'm confused about where she is. But what's more relevant is Gaul. Gaul is like, wait a second, if Chiad's not with you and never has been with you, then that means I have to go into the battle all by my lonesome where no one knows that I'm on any side and find her. And Elias is like, I'll go with him. We'll manage. It's great.
So what happened is all these relevant people went to the fortress where he told Galina to tell, and so Therill had to go fetch them. That's why they were all somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't get why Missouri's not with them when they come back. Like, I thought Missouri was with them, and like, but then Kirkland's like, I have to go to Missouri, and he just runs off. And it's like, I don't know why she didn't come with them from the fortress. I guess because she's off studying Aiel channeling or something.
Well, no idea.
Yeah, it's very weird. I thought that the group would have included all of them, but Missouri apparently didn't come, so Kirkland runs off, and then is promptly followed by Gaul, who's then followed by Elias. Because everyone's got a freaking side quest they need to accomplish.
I guess just so that you can do the thing where it's like, oh, we have to go get the healer, because they always have to do that in series. I don't know. You have to sit there in pain and bleeding for a while and have a conversation before they can heal him.
But that's not even what's happening. She's just a random Aes Sedai. I don't know. Whatever.
Well, who heals Perrin?
Seonid.
Oh, okay.
Like, she shows up in the group of people from the fortress. Like,
okay.
I thought that Missouri went with her, but whatever. For whatever reason, she's not. Kirkland runs off. But I love that Elias goes with Gaul. Just the way he's like, I'll go look after him. It'll be fine. Like,
I did highlight that and be like, oh, Gaul, like, Elias is a good dude.
Like, Gaul has a wolf companion. Like, he's companion to the Wolf King, but then also one of the Wolf King's, like, random friends is like, I'll hang out with him. I'll go after him and keep him safe out there. And we know that Gaul is going to accidentally rescue both Chiad and Bane together by killing the man who owns both of their Geistshine certificates, or however that works.
Talonvor freaks out because Magdan is passed out.
Well, I mean, he's in the same place as Perrin, right? Looking for his lady love, but she's, you know, passed out and in the arms of a stranger. Like, that's a different reunion than Perrin just got to have with Faile. I don't like the Talonvor Morghese thing, but, like, in this moment, I will allow him to be a bit of a weirdo because, like, yeah, that's an upsetting sight to see at the conclusion of this plot moment. Like, is she even alive? Like, you know, concern.
Yeah, I think part of the Talonvor Morghese thing, I think, is because it's told from her POV, and she's like, I think she's doing a lot more to flirt with him than she's willing to admit, and there's a lot more back and forth than she's willing to admit.
I don't know.
It feels like she doesn't treat him that well, but, like, I think that's because she doesn't treat herself that well.
Right, but she also seems wholly disinterested in him. And he seems to have be in love with her for her at a distance vibes.
Fair. Yeah.
I don't know what to think about them except that I wish that it was clear. But, you know, it's typical RJ romance. Like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Whenever he tries too hard, it's weird. And when he doesn't try at all, like Avi Elaine, it's fine. So, anyway.
I think what he's trying to do with Morghese is tell her story of her journey to accepting herself as a woman and not as a queen, and trying to do that through her acceptance of Talonvor. But it kind of comes off as arrogant and a little airheaded and distant from the reality.
Yeah, to be like, this woman will discover her real value when a man fucks her properly. Like,
well, that's not it. More of just like she has to let herself have relationships where because all of her previous relationships were for the crown, right? For ambition and politics. And this is the first one where she actually likes him, right? And in her own head, she cannot let herself like him because she has to be married for the crown. And it's only once she gives up the crown that she can say, oh, I do actually like him. And I do actually want to be with him. And she's, in the same way that Nynaeve has to make herself deliberately angry all the time. Why is Nynaeve always angry? Well, she's trying to be angry, right? Like, why is Morghese dismissive of Talonvor? Because she doesn't think she can be with someone for love.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think that is what Jordan's trying to say.
How effective he is at it, we can talk about that later.
Yeah, in many future instances of their interactions. We'll get there. So then we get the healing humor moment of like, no, you get healed first. No, you get healed first. No, you get healed first. And then at the end of that, Seonad is able to sort of chime in with some more Aes Sedai information on top of the is Galina Casban a dark friend situation and be like, that's a serious charge and here's the legal procedure. And that's sort of a fun thing to be like, all right, we're having information sharing between multiple parties. Isn't this nice? Let's continue.
I'm nodding. But yeah, Perrin basically is like, I'm going to kill her. And they're like, no, we need to do a trial. And he's like, why? And she's like, because remember when you were in the Two Rivers and you thought that trials were important? And he's like, oh, yeah, I guess they are.
Yeah, basically, right. The rule of law has to apply to everyone. Otherwise, the people it needs to apply to in confusing circumstances won't fucking buy it.
Right.
It's an unfortunate reality of judicial systems.
And it's different if she's throwing fireballs at you and you hit her in the head with a hammer, right? Like,
yes,
that's different than, like, accusing somebody. And of course, nothing ever comes of it because she ends up being Thrava's plaything for the rest of the series. And, yeah.
Right. But it's important that our heroes are seen to be pointed down the correct, moral path with respect to this immoral person. And the next thing is Naked Savannah as a
Naked
war
Savannah.
prize.
Woo! And then Perrin does the whole thing of like, I'm going to look at her because my wife expects me to look at her.
And Faile's like, now? With that woman?
Right, really?
I hate that woman on such a specific level. Please do not ogle the literal war trophy who I would like to kill because she tortured me for like 6 weeks.
And we get the results of the battle, which are Massima's men held to the point of suicide. Most of them are dead or dying. And the Damane turned that ridge into a death trap only a madman would walk into. So basically, they channeled all the Shido through Massima's men, and they were, for all intents and purposes, wiped out to a man.
Yeah. They held with zealot level fervor against, machine gun fire. Like, it's just not gonna go well for you. You have to run away at some point, except they didn't, so they did.
They didn't.
Except for Massima and his, small band of people who we will see at the top of next book.
Right, because remember, they were with Perrin, not with the rest of his troops.
Right. They cut their way through and ran away. So he'll have a few followers by the time that Faile hunts him down and kills him. But everyone else just died for the glory of the Lord Dragon. They just all went down like zealots and is messy.
And while the Shido were wiping out his men, the Two Rivers longbows and channeling that was pretty unopposed essentially wiped out the Shido. And took them. That's the machine gun fire I sort of think of that the Shido were caught in. Yeah, no, I mean, Tylee says that the losses between their two forces are maybe 100. And how many people did they wipe out?
Thousands.
Weren't the numbers
20,000.
10,000? 20,000? Yeah.
20,000. Oh, no, there was 20,000 of Massima's followers. That was how we said it was 20,000 people that Perrin is just consigning to death with very little thought. And that's against the Shido. So it's got to be more it also Faile says it's roughly equal Shido. There's more Gaishain than there are Shido, and there's 100,000 Gaishain. So there's 80,000 Shido, say, and 20,000 of these zealot cult people went up against them, probably took out, maybe 5,000 to 10,000 Shido just through sheer mass and wild stabbing. But then the Damane took out so many. I mean, I'm sure that Perrin's forces did a lot of work with their bows, but the Damane had to have done so much of that heavy lifting. Just so much. Yep.
They are machines of war.
Ugh. It's just... Imagine how horrifying it must be for the Shido clans that are coming up and coming in after.
And again, how many of these Shido were at Dumai's Wells first, right?
Right. And like, I mean, picking through this charnel field, looking for like children in tents that got left behind, you know, like with all that, oh my God, all that Dumai's Wells trauma. Like, it's just like the Shido are having a really rough year. Like, this is what happens when you elect a demagogue. This is what happens.
Don't they take a lot of the Shido as Gaishain?
No. Well, no, the Shanshan do. The Shanshan do take a lot of Shido as Gaishain.
Okay.
But what a lot is, I don't know, because they're not going to be taking on more numbers than they can, like, keep secure handle on. And a lot of Shido are going to go down fighting and not be taken alive very deliberately, I think. So I don't know how many that could be compared to the number of casualties.
Yeah, I'm just looking for if they have any numbers about how many. I don't think so. Just that the people who have given up are now basically, won't fight back because they're Gaishain, right? Tylee's like, yep, we're good.
Yeah. What is frustrating also is they've already fitted Adom to over 200 women. The Shido have leveled. This is part of why Tylee gets honored so hard, is because she brings back hundreds of new channelers. Not just like servants, but channelers.
Which, that's how they participate in the last battle.
Oh, God, do not make me glad that they fucking took Shido channelers hostage, because otherwise they would have been doing fuck all during the last battle.
Right.
Literally.
But that's how they
Otherwise they
fight,
would have been doing fuck all during the last battle.
Yep.
Oh, God, don't make me argue that. Don't do
that. It helps. It helps the last battle. Absolutely. We have 200 channelers who otherwise would not have been helping the side of good. Now, with the Shanshan forced to fight in the last battle. Because there's always more Soldam than Damane.
Oh my God. This is a more quote-unquote good thing to happen than the White Tower raid.
Yep.
Oh my God. That's disgusting. Don't say these things. Ugh. That's... Jordan, that's
These
nasty.
are the moral choices that Perrin made, right? He is making the forces of the light more powerful with every decision he makes.
And Rand thinks he's making morally questionable decisions.
And Perrin did say his deal almost with the devil.
And then he thinks at the end, well, Tylee seems like a nice person. And it's like,
this
is systemic, sir. It's not about individuals.
Right.
Ooh.
I feel like you just hit a moral dilemma wall right there with that one.
Yeah, that's the sound of my moral compass breaking.
Yeah, you're like, oh.
Ouch. Well,
slavery a good thing? No. Ow.
No,
Ow.
That's bad.
Don't. Bad. No, can't say that.
It's if your moral compass leads you to slavery, you need a new moral compass. So fuck.
So while Perrin is checking out Savannah's booty, Faile says she wants Savannah's booty.
She does indeed.
Yes.
She does indeed.
Yes, she does. Yeah. So she has a huge chest of jewels in there, and I want them. Don't look at me like a looby, Perrin. I love that, looby.
I know, right?
We have 100,000 people to feed, clothe, and help get back to their homes. 100,000 at least. Because that's just the Gaishain, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got all the Shido and everybody else, yeah.
Yeah, they don't really take many Gaishain Shido in Perrin's army. I think only the Shido contingent of his army takes like individual Gaishain, but he as an army does not engage in that.
I think that most of them do end up being taken by the Shanshan.
Yeah. I
like this line. Dirty or no dirty face, she was regal, talking about Faile, which made him think of the broken crown. Discussion of that little matter would have to come later. Because remember, he's found out that she is basically the inheritor of the broken crown of Saldea.
Which I thought he learned in book 4.
Yeah.
But sure, let's pretend like it's a revelation now.
Here's another one of my little bits I sent you. In the fight with Ravine, Nynaeve has taken Moghedien prisoner, and they're tossing balefire, right? And then Nynaeve goes, or I don't even, oh shoot, it might be a different battle.
Oh yeah, I remember you sending me this.
Basically, someone's tossing balefire around. I don't remember exactly when it is. And Nynaeve goes, whatever that weave is, we have to avoid it. And then someone says, it's balefire, you idiot. And she goes, okay, I'm wondering what balefire is. Yet, back in Tanchico, books earlier, she's attacked by one of the Dark Friends who has a ter'angreal that creates balefire, and she goes, oh, that's balefire.
Yeah.
She knows what it is. She knows what it looks like. She's been attacked with it before. She knows the name of it. She knows that ter'angreal creates it because she's gotten a dossier on it.
Yeah.
So her not knowing what balefire is books later bothered me a little bit. I was like, that's a mistake, Jordan.
Yeah. And this feels similar because I swear in book 4, he asks what her point in the line of succession is, and she says it straight out. So, like,
right.
I don't know what further revelation the Broken Crown could be here. So many books later. I swear in the conversation, he asks her, like, how many steps between you and the throne, and he is very impressed at how few steps it is because she's like, it's my cousin, my father, and then me.
And let's also make the point of saying this is the only time in this book the term Broken Crown comes up. It's not like he's thinking about it beforehand. It's not like this is a discussion he had earlier in the book. It's like, wait, what? Are we referring to something like books ago?
Yeah, it's like, I think at one point, like, Elias is off, like, it's mentioned that off-screen Elias mentioned it or something, and it's just like, I need more than that in order to care about what this is.
Right. But I mean, and we know it's her being basically the heir to the throne of Saldea.
Right, the throne of Saldea is the Broken Crown. Like, it just means that he's going to have to deal with being king someday. Like, that's all. Well, king consort.
Right.
He's going to be busy being king of the Two Rivers, so, you know.
Right. And this is the whole thing, right? Because, like, everyone above her dies very quickly.
Yeah.
In the last battle.
Yeah, Zenobia and her parents die, like, in the same day, I think, of the battle. Like, it's just like boom, boom.
Because Zenobia does something reckless and gets pulled down because she, like, rides off into battle.
I think it's when the plans are starting to get screwed over.
Oh, no, she gets betrayed by the general.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. She's betrayed.
Yeah, she's one of the major losses to that series of betrayals. But yeah, I mean, Faile becomes queen while she's lost in the Blight. It's a whole process. Or a whole series of events. I mean, there's no crowning, obviously. But, like, yeah, she's actively lost when the crown passes to her, legally speaking. Oh my god, we're going to be at that book so soon. Just a couple of years.
We're down to like 7 chapters of Robert Jordan writing left. Right? Because this is chapter 30. There's 37 chapters plus an epilogue. And then that's it. I mean, we have New Spring. We haven't done New Spring yet. But yeah, this is the last time we get Robert Jordan writing about Perrin.
I like that Savannah not only introduced herself proudly to the Shan-Chan, she also managed to kill 2 of them before, well, 2 of the Altarans, but still. I like that she, like, picked up a spear and killed 2 people before getting taken captive. It's like, just be fucking spicy to the end, you know?
Right.
Well, I mean, in terms of fighting skill and ability. Like, they're not even true Shan-Chan. Like, they're, you know, they're just Altarans. They're just wetlanders to her. But it's like, she is an Aiel, despite everything that's gone on and her cultural lack of being Aiel. She's still, like, born with a spear in hand, dangerous, because she's an Aiel. It's Savannah, indeed, acting like a cougar. A good comment.
This is the last time that we get Savannah as well. We never have any more follow-up on her.
I would have really liked some follow-up on Savannah. We get a tiny bit of follow-up on Elida, but not Savannah.
So do you want to talk about this last paragraph here with Perrin? It was a strange world. He had gone to her thinking he was making a deal with the Dark One, and the Light knew some of what the Shan-Chan did was beyond repugnant, but the woman was stalwart and true to her word.
Yeah, to that I say you can have a good person in a bad system, and that will not change the impact of the bad system. Like, Tylee is going to be a critical part of changing the system from the inside to the extent that systems can be changed from the inside. You know, there's a real strong argument for, in Audre Lorde's words, the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. That's like a really poignant perspective that I think is really relevant to this, but also to the extent that the Shanshan Empire can be rebuilt without being dismantled. You're gonna need people like Tylee, right? I don't think that we live in the American Empire, right? We're white people in the American Empire. Like, we are Tylee in an ideal circumstance. We are the person who is decent and good and will be early on in the, hey, maybe we shouldn't do that anymore conversation. Like, in an ideal world, we are the Tylee of this. So you have to be able to see the Shanshan as having nuance and as having gradations and as having people that are worth engaging with, like Tylee, and people that our heroes cannot be morally stained by interacting with, like Perrin. Like, we need that because that's us in the equation.
But it does feel like Perrin's sitting here going, I can excuse the slavery, but I draw the line at lies. You know, and it's like, yeah. There's a certain level at which lying is the ultimate sin in the Wheel of Time. Above anything else, lying is just not acceptable. You can be a decent person if you tell the truth.
Yeah, if you're honest.
And you have slaves.
Well, and part of the reason why that works is because cognitive dissonance is where change comes from. And cognitive dissonance tends to come from someone being faced with, these are your values, you are an honest person, how do you square those values with these facts? And the person actually going through a process of cognitive dissonance and then changing their mind, which is what we see Lylwyn and Tylee both going through.
And what we want to see with Tuon. Yeah.
You need honesty in order for that process to work. Right? Like, you can't have a dishonest person face their cognitive dissonance and make an uncomfortable change. That's just, like, not how that works. And yet, it is part of why Tuon is such a betrayal, is because it's like, I can't believe that you're being honest with me if you are both a good person and down with slavery. Like, no, there is a fundamental dishonesty there. If you're a good person who has yet to be faced with slavery in a way that will make you change your mind about it, well, that's an unfortunate human condition that we can forgive because we're Americans and we live in a racial caste system. Like, we all get to go through that revelation process at some point in our lives because we were born here. Like, every Shanshan has to at some point realize they're in a slave society and choose how to deal with that. And, like, you can choose different things throughout your life. And Tuon not choosing things when we see her faced with all the evidence, the same kind of evidence that Lylwyn and Tylee face, in boatloads more, in greater scale, and she doesn't. It's like, it feels like dishonesty, and I think that's why she's so frustrating. It's because Jordan has trained me to see honesty as the ultimate barometer of goodness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whether that's true or not is beside the point. Jordan trained me to see this world in that light. So
right, because what's the worst thing that the Dark Aja does?
Father of lies.
The good guys pledge to tell the truth no matter what on an oath rod, right? Like, there's so many instances of...
And giving your word. Having your word be a really, like, binding contract. Yeah, we see Matt and Lan both really get all up their asses about what their word means.
Gaulid.
Gawain, for fuck's sake. Like, all of them get really obsessed with what their word means to people.
Mm-hmm. And so then we finish off this chapter with a goodbye to Galina.
Little Lena.
Which, I'm going to say this out loud because it took me way too long to realize it, but Lena is just the back half of Galina.
Oh, poor baby. You only just noticed that?
Not just, but not on my first read-through or anything.
I've always thought it was the best diminutive little name for her because it's just taking her pretty scary, imposing name and just making it so infantile. And it's like, it was right there in the name the whole time. I've always loved it as a diminution. Little Lena. Galina becomes Little Lena. Aww. Little baby.
A little Lena bean.
Lena right? Bean. Totally. And yeah, this is the scene where I was like, I thought that she was about to use the rod. She wasn't. She was about to change her clothes. I
Yep.
conflagrated that with the fact that she has the rod. Like, no, she was not
Yes.
about to use the rod. That was totally a me problem.
Nope, she's trying to find somebody who will channel into it and help her use it. But she has to get away first, and she fails that pretty miserably.
Yeah, and then Thurava walks up and immediately says, "You will never ride a horse again," cutting out the first leg of the tripod of how she's going to get away, and then says, "You will never touch the rod again, and you will never channel again." I think did she say that? No, "You will never try to escape again." She doesn't say channeling. She says, "You will never touch this, and you will never try to escape me again." And so that
Well, the channeling is already
Yeah.
in
yeah.
action, right? That's already a standing order.
So yeah, with this, Galina's life completely collapses into nothing but being a basic. I mean, this is basically what a Korsuvra would do, right? You have no will.
It's why the oath of obedience is so dangerous, because then someone essentially can bind you to any oath they want at any time for any reason, simply by stating it out loud.
Yeah. You will walk on your hands for the rest of your life would be a really awkward way to die because, but it would happen, right? Like, ooh, Vuji made a good point in chat. If Galina had not tried to double cross Faile, she probably would have actually escaped successfully.
Why? Because she would have been with Perrin.
I'm assuming so. She would have been with Faile. They would have escaped. She would have ended up with Perrin. She wouldn't have crossed paths with the escaping Thurava. Like, that whole interaction wouldn't have happened. She would have had a totally different trajectory away.
Yeah, if she just done what Perrin asked her to do and done what Faile asked her to do.
Done what she'd promised to
without
do, both
lying,
of them.
what she promised to do.
Like,
Yeah.
if she had just done what a not Black Aja sister would have done,
Right? She would have been fine.
she would have probably gotten away. Probably. If she had actually worked with Faile to get away, she would have ended up getting swept into Perrin's camp. And she would have been fine. But no, she had to be a petty Black Aja bitch. That's good comeuppance. It is hard to see someone going into, no free will, permanent slavery to a sadist and cheer that. That is a slightly complicated thing. But you're seeing a bad person taking control of a bad person. So,
However, this is, remember, the head of the Black Aja. The head of the worst organization to ever exist.
and she's going to a sadist who is not a dark friend, which seems like the best possible punishment if we're going to go with vindictive justice here, which, the head of the Black Aja probably deserves vindictive justice. Like, someone who's not a dark friend, but who is very much into Semirog kinds of games. Oof.
So yes, sorry. Head of the Red Aja on the Council for the Black. That I always get that backwards.
Okay, right.
Alviarin was
Alviarin's
the head of the Black.
Yeah, okay, you're right.
Yep. I do that every time.
So she's extremely bad. She's on she's on the 13 High Council level bad. Because you're right, she's not technically the leader. She's the leader of the Red Aja, who is not entirely evil. The Red Aja is ostensibly a necessary force who does have some non-Dark Friend people working for them. But
however, they have been led by a Dark Friend for a long time.
One assumes she's not the first who has done that. And the Black Aja also is massively overrepresented in the Red, and the Red has been a vehicle for a lot more Black Aja plots than the other Ajas, I would assume, given the male channeler connection.
And specifically in the last 20 years, they've been trying to hunt down a male channeler of a specific kind of male channeler. Yeah, I mean,
I want to be the Red has a place to exist in this world. It makes sense for there to be a police Aja. But God, they do a lot of bad things.
And the way Suan lied about them setting up false dragons, it's just, again, time and time again, I'm like, I know it's a lie, but it just feels so accurate. Yeah. It's hard for me to believe it's a lie. It's hard for me to be like...
Especially over 3,000 years. You're telling me this never happened? Yeah, so it's easy to be okay with Thurava taking complete control of Galina.
And by the way, Galina became head of the Raja in 981, which is, you guessed it, the year Rand was born.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the year he was born, she takes over the Red Ajah to hunt for male channelers.
Yeah, she hasn't done a lot of redeeming acts. Like, Roland has been a saint compared to this woman. Right?
Yes.
Roland has redeemed himself so many times over compared to what
He's made one mistake
that this woman has made.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, she has done nothing ever to redeem herself. She's simply a series of bad things. So have at her, Tharava. Make her life long and miserable, I guess.
Just a series of Galina best hits. She's instrumental to electing Elida to sitter. She leads the circle that stills Swan and Liana. So Galina specifically is the person that stilled Swan.
Oh.
Right?
And she had a good time doing it. You know she did.
Oh, yeah. She kidnaps Rand. She orders the beatings for Rand and is the reason he goes berserk.
Oh, yeah. She's the one who says no matter if Arian wants it or not, we're doing it.
Just a short little...
Yeah, no, have at her, Tharava.
Summary of things.
Just go for it.
Go for it.
You're good.
Go for it.
You're good.
Just remember, every time you have any sympathy for her, she's the reason Rand was put in the box and beaten on a multiple times a day. And men.
I'll beat men to punish Rand if that's what will work. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Anytime.
So all of his PTSD, all of that,
Tharava can't be worse to her than she was to Rand. And even if she can, I don't care.
She put him in the box. Like, that's why we were talking about the box earlier, right?
Galina is the reason
what's in the box? Galina put Rand in the box, yeah.
Yeah, and like the box to get him out of the palace, we could forgive that because that's just spy shit. But the beating box, that's unforgivable.
Sure, for a couple hours, you put somebody in there to sneak him out. No, but beating him and putting him back in,
we're not going to forgive that.
No, it's not.
Happen.
No, and we kind of blame it on Elida for the kidnapping, but no, it's Galina was the reason that he could have been escorted back.
A lot of ways,
chained up in a lot of ways as a prisoner, yes, but not necessarily as a boxed specimen.
Galina was the one who was like, yeah, no, we were always going to beat him into submission. That's what the Red Ajah does, is we beat people into submission. That's kind of
that's what the Black Ajah does.
Our MO.
Yeah.
And, like, only the Red Ajah knew that those were the instructions that we were going to carry out if need be. And, like, there's just, like, layers upon layers of, like, she engineered this to be as bad as it could be. So, yeah, Tharava, be the light's justice, even though you're also sort of the worst, because Savannah never would have gotten anywhere without Tharava backing her up. So
no,
she sucks, but she doesn't suck as a dark friend, so it works as a punishment for an extremely bad dark friend. Because if she was just a dark friend, then you'd end up with like dark on dark nonsense and whatever. But like, no, Tharava is committed to the light in her own very twisted way, so this is going to be relatively good. Maybe so good it becomes Arid Hall, but we're just going to ignore that because the Shido are going extinct. They're not doing an Arid Hall, they're going extinct.
No, they don't have enough city.
There's one thing in here I wanted to point out. Galina looks at the whole group. It's several hundred men, women, and children. Some of the men carrying women slung over their shoulders, so that's got to be the channelers. There's also every man and woman except the wise ones was carrying at least one spear, and they had their faces veiled too, with a scarf or just a scrap of cloth. What could it mean? I think this is an interesting moment of them trying to go full survival mode of like, okay, everyone's been deputized to warrior status. We'll sort it out once we're somewhere safe. For the time being, martial law applies, basically, and like literally everyone has to be part of the fighting force.
And this is where I go back to Avienda's vision of the future, because one of the steps of the downfall is that she thinks, oh, that was a time when people had different jobs. Now everybody has to be a fighter.
That is one of the stages. Yes.
And so that's why I see them starting that progression where everybody's going to be a fighter, and they're never going to go back to having differentiated skills.
Yes.
And that's how you have a society lose its skills, lose its knowledge, lose its abilities, because you have nobody specializing in anything but fighting.
Right. In Avienda's vision, it's part of a protracted genocide. In this case, it's, a little bit different. But yes, that is the connection of like, oh, I recognize this. This is one of the steps in Avienda's future visions. That's the connect. Yes, absolutely. All right, cool. And then we get mention of it's going to take generations, blah blah blah. So it's like, it will take generations. This process is a generations long process, whether it goes up or down. Either way, it's.
But at some point, you will either be murdered, bred out of existence, or just ignored to the point of relevance, where you're not even surviving in the desert. Because, again, everybody's going to be a fighter. They're going to lose skills. So what's going to happen? You're going to lose survival skills. You're going to lose foraging skills. You're going to lose farming skills. It's very difficult to survive in the waste if all you have is fighters.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's going to be very difficult to survive to the waste if you don't have everyone as fighters.
That's a good point. Yeah. They've got a long way to go.
That's the equation that Tharava is attempting to balance, is how do we survive long enough to get back to the waste where all those survival skills will mean anything?
They have to cross all of Andor and all of Kyrian to get back to the waste.
They're going to miss the whole last battle trying to get back to the waste and getting picked off as they go. That's rough.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is, what's, all the weird stuff with the way the world's working and food is spoiling. We never hear what happens to them, but, I'm guessing they starve to death because there's nothing for them to eat.
Out on the Caroline grass, they don't even get back to the waste. They just all die in the middle of the prairie or something.
Yep.
Oh,
yep.
That's so bleakly perfect. They die lost and alone in a strange land with the world turning against them, and even metal can't be relied on, and... all
those sorts of things. Yeah,
that's so bleak and so perfect for what the fuck they did to damage the Aiel's participation in the world. That's perfect. Ugh. Shimpucci, is it bad that I want them to survive so Galina doesn't get off too easy?
And then I think just read us out maybe the last two paragraphs.
All right, here we go. Then we will take generations, Tharava said firmly. We will take whatever time is necessary, and we will never leave the threefold land again. Her gaze shifted to Galina, who flinched. You will never touch this again, she said, raising the rod briefly. And you will never try to escape me again. She has a strong back. Load her, and let us be on our way. They may try to pursue us. Burdened with water skins and pots and kettles till she almost felt decently covered, Galina staggered through the forest at Tharava's heels. She did not think of the rod, or escape. Something had broken in her. She was Galina Casban, highest of the Red Aja, who sat on the supreme council of the Black Aja, and she was going to be Tharava's little plaything for the rest of her life. She was Tharava's little Lena for the rest of her life. She knew that to her bones. Tears rolled silently down her face. You're out, bitch.
That's done. Yeah, and that's... Man, it's hard to believe that's the last Perrin. I'm looking through being like, we've done the last Rand.
Oh.
Right? That was... Episode 500 was the last time Jordan wrote Rand. Was when he loses his hand. It's a plain wooden box.
Why you gotta make all these sad milestones?
And then we've got... That was the last Perrin. And then we're gonna get some Elaine, and we're gonna get some Matt, but I don't think we're gonna get any more Nynaeve.
Wow.
Or any more Egwene. So we've done. Let's see.
We're just spiraling in on the end of the Jordan parts, because even when we go back to New Spring, it's gonna be Swan and Lan and Moraine. It's none of our core people. I mean, Lan and Moraine are pretty core.
The last Egwene chapter was Honey in the Tea that Jordan wrote. That was when she basically wins her battle in the White Tower to be accepted, She sort of realizes how she's going to win the battle in the White Tower.
It's not even actually winning the battle. It's just her having thoughts about winning the battle.
The last Nynaeve is when she put Lan through the gateway.
At least Jordan got to get the golden crane going.
Yeah. So, and I think that's it for the Emmonsfield 5. We've done, that's the
Wow.
last of each one of them. Is like,
Wow.
well, we haven't done the last Matt, we haven't done the last Egwene, but we've done the last Nynaeve, we've done the last Rand, and we've done the last Perrin.
Wait, is the last Egwene Honey in the Tea? Oh, is Honey in the Tea not yet?
No, we did that already.
Okay, so
Yep.
we have done the last Egwene.
Yes, last Egwene. Yeah, we just haven't done the last Matt and Elaine. Sorry, I said Egwene instead of Elaine.
Yes, you said it backwards. But she's not Eversfield 5, which is why I was confused.
Sure. Emmonsfield. I do think of her as one of them, though.
Yeah, no, exactly. Because
her, Avienda, and Min sort of get put in there. It's the Emmonsfield 5 plus the Romance 3.
plus Rand's harem.
Because I guess I think of, you got Emmonsfield 5 plus the people they love, right? So you've got Rand's 3, you've got Faile. I don't include Tuon in that.
Yeah, Tuon doesn't get to be in that exalted company. Fuck that bitch.
No.
But we can allow Moraine and Lan in as the parents of the group.
Yeah, totally. And also, Nynaeve sort of ends up being...
Well, she's in Emmonsfield 5, so she's fine. She was already in the original count. I guess you can let Tom in there.
Yeah. But I'm saying
He's really core.
If Lan and Moraine are the parents, it's weird that Nynaeve dates Lan.
Oh. Okay, well, Moraine and Tom can be the parents then.
There we go. Yes. I like that because they're the ones who are actually together.
And they're the ones who really shepherd the kids in a more like taking control. I mean, Lan just helps Moraine, right? Lan doesn't take a lot of agency in what he's doing.
Yes.
He's just helping Moraine, and then he's helping Nynaeve. But nonetheless, he's always helping someone else. But Tom takes agency in a way that Lan just would never dream.
Right.
And I don't like Tom Moraine per se, but in this schema, it makes sense for them to be the parents of the found family.
So if the Emmonsfield 5 is the family, the extended family includes
yeah.
Tom, Moraine, Lan, Rand's 3 girlfriends, Faile.
I think
that's where I'd stop there. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Matt has not partnered up with someone who's worthy of being in the extended family.
I mean, maybe Brigida, you could not almost fit her in there, but I don't.
Yeah.
Aludra, no.
Nah, those
No.
are friends of the family. They're not in the extended family. They're just friends of the family.
Right.
I mean, the Water Bond's pretty close, but also she's dead now. She's a hero of the Horn. Like, it's a very close friend.
Yeah. I feel like that's the same tier with, like, Noel.
Yes, that's literally who I was thinking of. Or, like, Talmanes. I mean, honestly, Talmanes could be part of the family if Matt would just admit that he's a bisexual disaster.
And who's the hat? Who wears the hat?
Oh, Julian could be in the family. No, honestly, Matt needs to just pair up with Nelisian. Fuck Tuon. And just, like, be with, not Lysian, Talmanes. Nelisian's throws.
Talmanes, yeah.
Like, Matt just needs to be with Talmanes, and then Talmanes can be in the family. Because he's cool.
Well, I still think a Matt Elaine getting together would be kind of interesting.
God, they would make so many things blow up. Like, them and Aludra
like them
would
with
be
cannons.
just a mess. Like, so many city walls would have holes in them. Like, it would be obnoxious.
Right.
Like, they would get Napoleonic on that shit so fast. Like, it would be such a problem.
Elaine being like, for the safety of the world, we have to conquer it. Matt being like, all right, I'm leading. Fuck, I guess I'm leading the battles. Damn it.
Exactly. Like, oh my God. Like, do not allow those two to team up.
Elaine gives me Princess Bubblegum vibes. If you've watched Adventure
I have
Time.
not.
Yes. Okay. Fair enough. There's a very much conquering the world for its own safety vibe going on there.
That's Elaine for sure. For sure. She thinks that she'll nobly sacrifice herself to ruling the world. It's like, maybe we could have slightly more anarchy than that.
Yeah, her I guess I'll be the queen because I'm just the only one who understands how to sacrifice for the queenship. Like, how to be a real queen.
How about you just pay your fair share in taxes and live in a reasonable sized house?
All right, Batman. Well, that was a surprisingly fun chapter. I enjoyed that. It took a while to get there, but there was a lot going on, a lot of interesting stuff. I enjoyed talking about Aram. I enjoyed talking about Galina's crimes.
Yeah, that was a really good payoff chapter. There was a lot not just of the literal payoff, but like good stuff to talk about around that payoff and how it matters, and good character moments of like Perrin smashing a man's head in and then immediately hugging his wife. Like it was a good chapter. That was a really solid chapter, and I'm not really that surprised that we managed to talk for over 2 hours about it.
No, me neither. We've had a series of very good chapters, I feel like. I mean, we're at the end of
this is a good part. This is a good part of the series.
Night of Dreams. This is one of the best writing, and just so much payoff happening, right? And so much, obviously, like closing out plot lines because we were going to have the last battle next.
Yeah. Jordan was back in the groove. He was pulling stuff together.
Right.
He was getting to like harvest fruits he had sown years ago, and it's just everything is clicking along real smooth right now in the writing.
And I gotta say, my only regret about the last 3 books is there are some called dangling plot lines, rotting fruit, some unfinished business, whatever you want to call it. There's some things that just Jordan didn't put in his notes and Sanderson didn't address. And so we have some characters that get dropped, some plot lines that get dropped, some unanswered questions, and some just, more than any of that, some really good setups that never get used. Some Chekhov's guns that stay on the wall. And that makes me more sad, I think, than something like Matt's bad characterization.
Yeah, I feel like it's easier to forgive characterizations than plot stuff because you can actually like schematically mark out what the plot should be in a way that characters harder. Like characters just it's spoilier in a way that's like plot is like it's right there.
Just use it. He said that.
Right there.
You know, and something else that I think I've really come to realize over the course of this podcast is that Sanderson wrote the last 3 books with the same understanding you and I had before we started the podcast.
Sure.
And I feel like we have a much deeper, better understanding of what Jordan was intending and going for, having done this deep dive. Sanderson just didn't have 6 years to study the books before he started writing them.
Could have.
He could. But he was a fan, but he never, I honestly don't think Sanderson went as deep into them.
What podcasts just didn't exist as a phenomenon when he was a fan. Like, we became a phenomenon after he finished the series. Like, there's a necessary order of operations there that we just have to forgive him for. Like, these podcasts, us and everyone else, wouldn't have existed because the books weren't done, and the whole all this falls out because the books are done.
Right. And
so, like,
yes. No, I understand. You know, it's hard for me to love the final 3 books as much as I should when I'm like, okay, the person writing these didn't know the characters as well as I did.
Well, we can rewrite them.
Okay.
We can do that for our next after
the
podcast project.
There might be an awful lot of this is how the chapter should have gone in the Sanderson stuff. I feel so much safer being able to say that because what we're reading in the last 3 books is Sanderson's take on Jordan's story. And I don't mind being like, no, I can come up with a better take.
We can do that. There's nothing says we can't do that.
No. And then, of course, people will be like, yeah, but the stuff you're criticizing is the stuff that Jordan actually wrote and left behind. And I'm like, yeah, but it needed to get edited.
We've been saying that for some books now, so...
Yeah. The man needs an editor, don't get me wrong. Like, yeah.
An editor other than Harriet.
Yeah.
I mean, she has an editor, and all that's saying. Like, let's not erase
Right.
Harriet. We're saying we want to replace her.
Yeah. Well, and my understanding is a lot of the books that we say need editing, part of the reason they need editing is because they literally did not have the time to edit them.
Yeah, so now we get to blame capitalism.
Yes.
All right.
He was so close to the published deadline that essentially, and because he was such a big author, they let him do that in a way they wouldn't let normal authors do. And so the books just didn't get that level of the slog books as we described them, 7 through 10, did not get the kind of attention in the edit room that some of the other books did. That's my loose understanding of why the editing might not be as tight on those books.
Yeah, we don't know shit about shit, but I am very content to blame capitalism and patriarchy for creating a situation in which we got a subpar product from that team.
Totally.
Why not? Capitalism can take it.
And again, you and I, we talk about the slog being real, but the only books I actually didn't enjoy was Crossroads.
We did a lot of bitching for Crossroads and Winter's Heart. There was a lot of bitching in Winter's Heart.
Yes. Some of Winter's Heart was there was Winter's Heart were parts of it that I could have skimmed over a little faster, but like
our second pass through the podcast through the series we'll just like completely re-edit the books to suit our tastes. Oh
my god, yeah. Well, this is where I've talked about making
I know exactly what you're going to say,
one.
And yes, that is what I'm saying.
Is we need to re-edit the series. Honestly, the WoTSpoilers book series of Wheel of Time wouldn't change anything.
WoTSpoilers cut.
The WoTSpoilers cut wouldn't change anything through the first 7 books.
Nope.
Not a thing.
You throw in a few theys for men, that could be fun.
Sure. Maybe and maybe cut a few things so our headcanon can be spoiled.
Yeah, exactly. Shore up our own headcanon with foreshadowing editorial choices.
Exactly. But then book 8, 9, 10 would be one book. Mm-hmm. 11 would be pretty much untouched. And then we would rewrite 12 through 14, but steal blatantly from what's in 12 through 14.
Yeah, exactly. We would take the parts that are good and then, like, conclude the plots we needed concluded.
Mm-hmm. Right. A lot of Perrin stuff would be rewritten. A lot of Matt stuff would be rewritten.
Which we would know Jordan didn't write any of that. We know for a fact that Sanderson had one line to work with about Perrin. So anything about Perrin would be completely fair game to say, no, Jordan, you did not throw out a Jordan piece, because we know that's all Sanderson.
So the whole relationship between the Sean Chan, Perrin, and Matt, I think, is something that I would rewrite. That whole, like, everything about those 3 groups and their interactions could be rewritten.
Yeah, we would take...
I would keep some of the Perrin and Slayer stuff.
The Perrin Slayer stuff was dope. Like, Sanderson, because Tellire and Riyadh is the kind of place where Sanderson's magic-breaking brain just fucking goes. Like, Jordan was already... had finally created a space where you could break the rules and was beginning to play with that. So for Sanderson to get in there and use that was like, okay... No, I believe this. Jordan totally set this up to be this way. I love all the Slayer shit. I don't really love Slayer. We could do a little bit with his ending, but I do love all the Perrin Slayer intel I run. We can just keep that. Yeah, for sure.
Uh-huh. And I would alter the Rand Dark One Faine stuff a little bit, because I would want to integrate Faine into that battle a little bit more and have him become part of the last battle, right? I want Faine to somehow infect the Dark One's prison or replace the Dark One or in some way be the yin to the Dark One's yang of evil.
Yeah, totally. There's so much there with, like, the Dark One being the seeds of his own destruction with respect to Rand. It would totally make sense that Faine comes in and, like, stabs the Dark One in the back or whatever. Like,
right. This whole, like, Rand decides that he doesn't want to kill the Dark One, spares the Dark One. Faine comes in and says, "No, the Dark One must die." Pulls a Smeagol, right, totally, and like kills the Dark One. But then becomes the new Dark One because he gets sucked into the prison, and Rand creates a new prison around him because the Dark One's dead, and that prison is defunct, right? And also, right, because I believe Teleron Riyadh is the Dark One's prison, right? That's the layer that is created.
Yeah, we can make that true in this.
You can you can actually, like, but you can have, like, the Teleron Riyadh fall apart completely because that's the Dark One's prison, and then Rand recreates it out of threads of the pattern to create a new prison around Faine.
And it's like he is the dreamer of the whole world, because the dream ends, like, for the Aiel, like their whole thing about the dream ending, and like he literally recreates, and that would be so cosmological for the whole world to just be the prison of the world's existential threat to be contained in the dream of his mind. That is also the dream of the world. Like, the dragon is one with the land. The dragon is one with everyone's subconscious psyche, like, manifest space. Mm-hmm. See, this would be so much more fun.
Right. Egwene doesn't fucking die.
And Egwene doesn't fucking die. Nor is she pregnant with anyone's fucking baby.
But Matt does.
God.
No. We do a lot more with Llewellyn and Egwene.
Oh my God, yes.
Like, the reason Egwene doesn't die is Llewellyn saves her life, right? Gawain
Gawain goes out
makes
as he
poor
does.
choice.
That's fine. We can keep that.
Yes, yeah, that's fine. He can die.
Oh, yeah, and Llewellyn helps Egwene get through everything. Helps her heal her Seanchan trauma, like, down to the point of being able to, like, actually work with, like, dismantling and restructuring the Seanchan Empire for channelers properly.
Right. Because she has the Seanchan who she trusts, so she has credibility with the Seanchan and with this new Empress, who is, of course, coming around because she has a relationship with Matt, who has made her promise to stop enslaving channelers.
Even though Matt's died... Now she's doing it with Queen Victoria and holding true to that promise, even though she only knew the man for like 5 minutes.
Right, right.
No, she wouldn't do that. That would be very out of character. We'll workshop that. That's not what she would do. But we'll figure that out somehow. We can just kill her. She can die. That'd be fine.
Yeah, we need someone. She does kind of is the ruler. We don't have someone else to rule the Seanchan.
Yeah, and dismantling the Seanchan Empire is a big outrigger of an ask, shall we say.
Right. So, yeah, and that's one where, like, killing off Matt does make that a more difficult task, right?
Unless we had someone actually having a change of heart in preceding books that would allow her to springboard even with Matt being dead, which, like, we haven't seen, but we could make.
Right. We could make that happen earlier on with Matt and Tuon and their relationship, and basically not have them split up and go their separate ways at the end of this book, but to have them come back together and have her be like...
Maybe she could keep Satala as her truth speaker and, like, actually fucking learn from her. Like...
that would be fantastic. Yeah, she goes back to the Seanchan, she tests, she realizes that the whole, Soldalm can channel 2 thing is real, and then she goes back to Matt and says, okay, now what? What do we do?
Yeah, we don't have to consider it wasted potential once we get to the last 3 because it's all just fanfic after the original author died.
Right.
And we can just steal shamelessly as long as we're playing in our own sandbox and it's clearly labeled as such. No one can fucking take it.
I'm telling you, there's a lot that can be done there. That we've sort of, these dangling plot threads that we've been like, oh, and this got dropped.
And then we could make it a little, like, animated visual series. It'd be really fun. It just goes totally rogue. The most rogue.
See, this is actually how the show gets ruined because, like, the writers did the same thing. They're like, we truly know the books. We know what Jordan really meant, and we're gonna write our own story,
so
and
it's love it so much. No one's gonna hate it.
Yeah. No.
No.
And then we got the TV show.
Except that I don't think that everyone would like ours. I just think that we would like ours, and it would be better.
I would love ours,
It'd be better for us and our fans, and that's enough.
We're starting with we're not changing anything in the first 7 books, right? Like, that's... like, the show didn't get nearly that far.
Art is so fun and subjective. That's the beautiful thing about art. This is why we know that RJ made such a good piece of art. It's because it does not stop inspiring feelings and emotions and reactions. Whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. Well, really, there's none that's indifferent, right? Everyone has a strong reaction, and there's so many creative sparks that you can take away from it. Like, he really did give us an endless cornucopia of magic.
And again, I've said this so many times, but the way the series changes as I age and reread it and interact with it in different ways as different persons and with different experiences, I take different things from it almost every time. And I keep expecting that to stop. And I was like, oh, at least once I've done this podcast, I won't have anything else to learn. And I'm going back and listening, being like, oh, except all this shit that I've missed.
Yeah, I've definitely... I mean, currently I'm working on trying to re-listen through the end books because that's where we're going next. So I'm trying to, like, really, like, do my homework and, like, listen, like, for my job.
Where I'm coming at is saying, okay, all of this stuff in the end, I'm looking for the foreshadowing. I'm looking for the stuff in the beginning that was really talking about the ending stuff, so that when we get to it, I can be like, oh yeah, I remember in book 3 when we when blah 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 said blah blah blah, because that's really where I think it's going to be interesting to come at those last 3 books and be like, where was the foreshadowing for that? Where did we hear? Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is that's the original motivation behind the podcast, but it's literally been so long and we're so deep in the weeds that, like, I don't fucking remember the beginning. Like, it totally makes sense to be like, now that we're approaching the end, remember all the foreshadowing that got the podcast started in the beginning? Like, It's truly too big to hold in your head all at once.
It is. It really is.
It truly is, despite this massive body of work we're creating that's attempting to do that. It's like, and yet we're still having to do sectional rereads through the process. That's wild. It's amazing.
It's why the reread never ends. Even with this podcast, even with this level of, because the more detail you go into, the longer it takes, and then the more you forget. But if you do a faster reread, you don't get all the detail. And so you can always dig in deeper.
It's just the gift that keeps on giving.
I love the way I gesture. Zoom keeps thinks I'm giving thumbs up and popping an emoji thumbs up on the screen. So if I will do it, if I actually
work if you do it on purpose.
No, it ignores my actual thumbs up.
Yeah, this happens to Allie all the time.
But if I gesture...
if you do this for a while, then, like, balloons will come up. I don't know. It happens to Allie all the time. Just, 1, 2, like, gesturing, just counting. But, like, it's like, oh, that was a gesture. Then you do it on purpose, and it's like...
Go fuck yourself, Thanks, Zoom. I'm so happy we're burning tons of energy on AI. It's really made my life better.
Yeah, I think it's great how the minuscule progress we've made against climate change has been completely wiped out by the proliferation of AI bullshit. I think that's like super excellent.
AI and Bitcoin, I think, are pretty much have ended any progress we've ever made on climate change.
It's my favorite.
Yeah.
Ah!
So yeah, if you ever want to know our Faine fathered Min theory, you'll have to come to the live shows.
That's only for the people who are in live chat right now. It was not recorded. It will not be repeated. It's only for the gods and the people who showed up for live chat.
Truly loony theory. Okay, but I will have to say, I've been doing a re-listen, right? Because I feel like it's been long enough since the early books for me now. I mean, we're years out since I've done podcasts on them, that I actually have some distance, I've forgotten some things, and I can form new opinions again. Right? Because the problems I was having is I was re-listening to them and I was like kind of stuck because I was just sort of litigating arguments we'd had. But now I'm like, oh, wait, I kind of forget some stuff. So I've sort of been texting Aradia or Discording you in like little DMs every time I kind of feel like I find something.
There's a reread happening on the back burner. It's a great feeling.
And so like I feel like there's a few of them I have to like go through and read off as I scroll through. So edit this down so it makes sense because there's gonna be long pauses where I like look for the next one in the text I've sent you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so reading the first book. I think this is actually book 4, right? Lord Luke comes in after killing Trollocs and fades, right?
Yeah, that's book 4.
Book 4. He drops, Fade's head on the ground, and then he goes off and he's riding a black horse, and the horse is described exactly like a Fade's horse. So just in case he's not a bad guy, I think Lord Luke is riding a Fade's horse.
That totally makes sense. He's just shadow touched enough to be able to, like, make contact with that sort of a creature.
And, like, he went, hey guys, give me a horse, because he's leading Fades. The reason he has Fade's heads is because he's killing them when they fail him. Right?
Right. He's like, and I'll take your horse.
Yeah.
And the horse is like, you are not technically a Fade, but you're close enough that I'm going to allow it for whatever reason. Because he's a dark horse whisperer.
Right. He rides a, quote, all black horse. All black horse. All right. So, and I think this might actually be in Origins, but I was reading through, and Suan pulls a fake name. Her fake name is Mara Tomanes. Right? Mara Tomanes.
Yeah. Mara Tomanes.
Mara Tomanes. Yes. I think that's Jordan adapting Marissa Tomei, who's an actress who was very popular at the time.
Right now.
And I think that basically he thinks Suan looks like Marissa Tomei, and that's who he pictures whenever he's describing her, because that fake name is remarkably similar. It's just like take the back end of Marissa and put it on her last name, and you get that fake name. And that's what he loves to do, is just rearrange it.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see his descriptions of Swan matching with the Pinterest mood board of this woman's face. I can see it. I can definitely see it.
This is when she's in Bramewood, right? And this is the fake name she gives to Gareth Bryn.
Right. This is her weirdly youthful phase when Bryn is just falling in love with her because she looks young enough to be his daughter, and that's not creepy. Let's not unpack that. But it's when she's going through that process of discovering that she looks different than she did as a young woman, right? She's like, this de-oathing that has happened to me. Like, I don't look like I did as a young woman. I look prettier. You know, it's like a weird Jordan thing, like when Celine's like, my true self is a slightly older, hotter version of myself. Like, it's weird Jordan-y energy, but like, I can definitely see him looking at this woman and being like, yeah, that's the like old but young energy that is in my brain.
Okay, now I swore I sent you a bunch more of these, but I'm not necessarily finding them because we end up sending each other a lot of messages.
You should have pinned them or something.
Something, yeah. No, I don't really have... I should have done the work to... I thought I could just scroll through and find them really quick, but they're...
Yeah, I thought you sent me several. Well, I guess I'm going to try to scroll up too, like that's going to help. Yeah, it's... When did you start sending these messages? Because it might have been a while ago. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should do your homework better.
I really should. Yeah, no, I really sucked at my homework today. That's what editing's for, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Do we have we talked about our plan for the wedding at all, for schedule stuff?
Last recording, you were saying that you were rethinking your feelings about taking September off. And that, of course, throws all of our scheduling plans into absolute chaos because I've been operating under the assumption that we're taking September off and making adjustments to guest schedules and everything.
You know how sometimes I'm dumb?
You're definitely going to need to take time off for the week of and the week after, because those 2 weeks are going to fly by so fast that there's absolutely no way that a recording will fit in there. But you do have the entire month of September blocked off currently. That is what our schedule currently reflects. That is how I have been talking to people that want to do guest spots.
The only thing I was thinking is, maybe like September 3rd is that first Tuesday, right? Mm-hmm. And that's still like a ways out, right? But yeah, no, my brain is already pretty much thinking about wedding stuff 24/7.
We've noticed.
Who's we exactly?
Yes.
Everybody. Yes. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. It's. I didn't think it would consume me this much, but there's a certain amount of, because we're doing it ourselves. Mostly, we're not hiring a lot of people to do it. There's actually more planning involved and more coordination than I really anticipated, because I think a lot of people just spend the money so that they can just say, the bar is doing drinks, the caterers are doing the food, the decorators are doing the decorations and stuff like that. And we're like, no, we're gonna get there a day early and do the decorations. I'm making the cake myself. We're getting the food picked up and having it, buffet style so everyone can serve themselves. We're picking up the alcohol and having that buffet style so people can open bar themselves. Whatever that. I've got cider that I'm making. Never's going to put together mixed drinks.
You're not supposed to host your own wedding. You're supposed to get married.
Well, parents are supposed to help you financially too, and that's not happening. So no, that's a lie. My parents did give me a little bit of money to help with the wedding. So, but yeah, not enough to pay a bunch of people to do the work. Yeah. Well,
in theory, your friends volunteer their time, their energy, and sometimes even the keg of beer.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. My friends are on top of a lot of that, but some of it, I think it's fun to be like, hey, I made this cake myself, right? Like, that alcohol you're drinking, I made that myself. Like, there's some fun, and a lot of that I can do way ahead of time, so on the day of, I'm not doing shit.
Well, you were oscillating wildly between saying that you've taken on the right amount of work and you've taken on too much work. So I'll just let you decide, and then you can get back to me because how we feel about that.
I'm wildly oscillating between this is going to be a drastic success and a incredible failure. So
it's going to be fantastic. I can tell the future, and it's going to be awesome.
Speaking of men,
exactly.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah,
it's going to be great. It's going to be great because all your friends are going to make it be great. And we're going to tell you to go sit the fuck down before you pass out. It's going to be great.
Have some Gatorade here.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All right. Where are we at? Let's get into this chapter, because I feel like, unless there's anything else we need to touch that's off topic, do we need to follow up on WotCon at all, or?
No.
Okay.
No, I think, yeah, I literally just left a half an hour of us talking about our lives on episode 501. I didn't even put it at the end. I'm just no, that you just all can skip ahead half an hour if you want to get to the book. I put it in the description. I put it as a chapter in the file. You want to skip the life updates? Go ahead to minute 33. Go right ahead. I normally I put that shit at the end, but I'm too fucking tired. Too tired to do that. So deal. I don't even have editing a radio voice on board. No, you're just getting it straight the way we said it.
Wow. That's con burnout. I bought my tickets for next year though.
Oh, good.
I think I did get a coworker who has always wanted to be involved in the fandom into coming to the con. So that's always fun. Someone who's a little bit older, in his 50s, and he's like, I've never really connected with the fandom. I didn't really know it was out there. But I am constantly re-listening to Wheel of Time over and over and over again. And I was like, you need to go to WotCon. I'm sorry.
WotCon is the perfect community. It's so funny, dude, how much everyone in the entire goddamn world, except for you, is you have to buy a good mic and you have to export in WAV and it has to be in stereo. That is the conventional wisdom fucking everywhere. And you are just nah, seems like MP3 is good for the human and my stepdad and me. Just the lived experience is yeah, no one seems to. It really, the mic doesn't matter, you guys. The room matters, and the wave, the file type doesn't. I don't need waves. I don't need stereo. You just need mono MP3. There's 0.001% of the population that can hear the difference on a goddamn podcast recorded in your living room.
Yeah, the limiters are probably the mic, the speaker people are listening on, because most people are listening either on with headbuds or on their freaking phone speaker, right? Yep. Which can't reproduce most of the frequencies anyway. And who needs stereo? You're listening to a single point voice from a single source.
Yeah. You are not a symphony.
No.
You might be making good points, but you are not a symphony. You do not need a full panning room to make a sense of space. It's not a thing.
And so all of those things, because here's the thing. I come from an old school world where podcast size mattered. The size of the file in which you were downloading was a big deal, because podcasts existed pretty early on in the internet when it took time to download them, right? And so the difference between a 40 megabyte hour long thing and a 200 or 300 long or 500 megabyte file was huge, right? And then also, what kind of quality were you getting out of that, right? So given a certain file size, mono MP3s, high quality MP3s, right? I'm not talking 128-bit. I think we use 256K. We use a high quality. We might even use 512 for exporting, right? These are high quality MP3s. They have more than enough data in them for our voices.
Yeah. And it's just funny how few people seem to grasp that. Because I've heard zero complaints about our audio quality.
No.
I hear complaints about our audio content, but not the quality.
Not the quality. And it's just and it's been that way since the beginning. And it's you have to get a minimum quality mic, right? There are bad mics.
Yeah.
There are some $25 mics that, I wouldn't use. that are technically microphones, but basically wouldn't work on a child's toy, right? Like when you hear them and it's all
Yeah.
mechanical voices.
Yeah,
that come
potato
out.
quality.
Yeah, exactly. Potato quality. But like the problem is that used to be, you used to spend $300 to get out a potato microphone quality, right? Now potato microphone quality is $50, right?
Yeah.
So there's no excuse to have a potato microphone anymore if you're recording a podcast. And other than that, it's your room.
Yeah, which most people like are not changing their room in the slightest. And it's like, well, at that point, stop worrying.
And then it's your mic discipline, right? Like, are you blowing into the microphone? Do you have it close enough to your mouth for the kind of microphone that it is? If it's a condenser mic, right, it's going to pick up the whole room.
Right.
Or maybe I have that backwards. I always forget which one's which. But like one of them picks up the whole room. Yeah, and one of them, and we both have mics that are more room based, so we don't have to eat them. We have them sort of a foot to 6 inches from our mouth, right? As opposed to some of those, like a microphone that you want on stage, you really only want to pick up.
That's a condenser mic. And then you got to eat those things.
You got to eat those things.
I've done stage performance. I know mic technique for singing into a rock mic on stage. That's the mic technique tradition I've been trained in. Podcast mic is very different.
Yes. And so, but some people get condenser mics, don't eat them and try and record a podcast, and the signal's so small that you can't hear them.
Or they do eat them, and then you hear nothing but their mouth moving, and the content is completely lost in the just mechanical sounds of their meat.
So, or people try and eat a room mic, right? And then, same result, right? So there's certain things you can do, but like, people are like, how much money do I spend on a mic? I'm like, between $50 and $100.
Yeah, totally. It's like if you're not going to change the room, don't spend more than $200.
Yeah.
Just if you're not going to do anything in the room, then do not be spending more than $200. Just don't.
Because all that microphone is going to do is pick up your poor room quality sound with more fidelity.
Right. And like maybe you'll improve your audio space, so it's worth investing a little bit more, so that way when you do decide to move into the closet or whatever, like you have a mic that will rise to the challenge. But like, it's funny to me how much audio quality doesn't matter to most people. Like, it really doesn't. Most people just have not trained their ears to be able to hear what you need to hear in order to tell the difference with any of this stuff.
And you and I know that because we listen to NPR, and NPR frequently has poor audio quality on it. And it's like, it's national radio. It goes across the entire country, and often the quality is terrible. Absolutely terrible.
They're recording it on an office phone. I just cannot sometimes.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or
support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?